Nobel Museum, and welcome to Stockholm. My name is Axel.
I'm a Nobel person.
If you forget, it's right here. And if you have any questions during the tour, I would ask you just raise your hand at any time. Okay. And if you don't, I'll just keep going. Okay. But please, any questions at any time, no problem. This is at the center of the museum. It's very fitting, of course. It's the symbol of the Nobel Prize. Here's the portrait of Alfred Nobel, the man who created this prize. Sometimes you get the question, where does the money come from for funding the prize? Well, it's still his money. He was one of the wealthiest men in the world, very successful inventor and engineer. He was the inventor of dynamite, as you might know, and many other things. And he was very successful as an entrepreneur as well. But he never married, he never had any children. So in his last will, he wrote that he wanted his money to go into a fund, and he wanted the interest of this fund to be awarded as a prize, and hence we have the Nobel Prize. In the will, he also said that he wanted this prize to be awarded in 5 categories, and you see them here around us. He said, I want the prize to be awarded in physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, and peace. So these are the original Nobel Prizes. The prize in economic sciences, the 6th category, was created much later. All of these prizes have been awarded since 1901, almost every year. The prize in economic sciences was created in 1968 to celebrate the 300th anniversary of the Swedish Central Bank. And it's not a Nobel Prize. It is awarded with the other prizes. It's the same amount of money, but it's funded by the central bank. And since we cannot add anything to a man's last will, it is a memorial prize. So people say the Nobel Prize in Economics, but the correct name is the Sveriges Riksbank Prize in Economic Sciences in memory of Alfred Nobel. The Peace Prize is one of the original prizes, but it's not awarded in Stockholm.
You're right.
It's awarded in Oslo, exactly, in Norway. The reason for this is that, well, we don't know the reason, but here's the best guess. Well, the reason is that Alfred Nobel wanted it that way. So that is true, but we don't know exactly why he wanted it this way. It says in the will he wants the Peace Prize to be awarded by a committee chosen by the Norwegian Parliament. And the most probable reason is that Sweden and Norway were in a union during his lifetime. The union was on the verge of breaking up when he died in 1896. It broke up finally in 1905, but almost just like one country. So on the one hand, it might have seemed very natural for him to give one prize to our brothers in Norway. They were part of the country almost, had the same king. And at the same time, maybe it was also a signal that he wanted this union, right? A signal that they were part of the country, just as us. The union broke up, but of course they got to keep the prize. Now, the Peace Prize is also, I think, the prize that causes the most controversy, at least in the media, every year. And the reason is quite obvious. It's by nature a very, very political prize. You never have a non-political peace prize. War and peace, the questions of war and peace are political. Their nature is political. And the same goes for economics, I would say, and literature. And the natural sciences as well. But there the controversy, and there is a lot of controversy, but it's normally just within the scientific community. Because normally people don't understand quantum physics. I don't understand quantum physics. So it's a big deal also, and people might be very angry. But it's hard to understand it. But today I thought maybe I can explain to you, and maybe you know more than I do, but talk a little bit about the prizes in the natural sciences of 2012. Because you see these films here, these are the Nobel laureates or prize winners of 2012. There were 10 of them. One was an organization, the European Union received the Peace Prize. And up here you see the other Nobel laureates, all of them actually, since 1901, coming one by one. And there's no particular order up here.
Do you have anybody?
The idea is really to get a sense of the sheer number of Nobel laureates, and most of it you haven't seen before. So don't ask me about every single one. I don't know. It's a lot. One thing that you can notice, however, is that there's no mentioning of nationality in these banners. And this is an important principle. The Nobel Prize is an international award, given regardless of nationality. And Alfred Nobel was very specific about this. This might sound very obvious today. Why would you want to have a national award like that? Or any limitations? But it wasn't that natural or obvious when Alfred Nobel was alive. It was a very nationalistic era in Europe. So this is one of the reasons why the prize is so famous. It can be given to anyone in the world. And we keep no official statistics on nationality. So you come from? Russia? Well, I could give you an unofficial number. But Russia is complicated, you know. A lot of people were born in, let's say that you were born in the Baltic states. It was part of the Soviet Union for a long time. Is that Russia? Or if you take Poland, Marie Curie, maybe the most famous Nobel laureate of all time, two-time laureate, first woman to receive the prize. She was born in Poland, but when she was born, it was part of the Russian Empire. So it's a political thing. And you know, or the Dalai Lama, we see from China or Tibet. That's a politically loaded question. Now, let me talk about the laureates in medicine of 2012. Please come closer. The medicine prize went to Shinya Yamanaka and John B. Gurdon. They got the prize for the discovery that mature cells can be reprogrammed to become pluripotent. Well, I think I need to explain what a mature cell is first. This is something that we all know, actually. A mature cell is a specialized cell, like a skin cell or a brain cell or a blood cell. It has developed to have this one function within the body. A pluripotent cell is a cell that has not yet decided to specialize itself in a certain field. It has pluripotency, many possibilities. And a stem cell is an example of that. You know, the early embryo is formed out of stem cells, and they can become any kind of cell. And stem cells might actually help us do amazing things in medicine. You can make blind people see. Disabled people can walk again as well, because you can actually repair the body. I could even inject like stem cells into your brain. Maybe it would repair your brain. It's amazing. So it's very important for the development of medicine. However, for a long time, the only way to get stem cells was to use embryos, right, from abortions. And in many countries, abortion is a very debated issue. And of course, there are ethical concerns there. Can you really use a fetus? But this discovery might solve that problem. John B. Gurdon, he discovered in the early 60s, late 50s, early 60s, that even mature cells contain the information that is necessary for a mature cell to become pluripotent. He started what is called cloning. He was the first one to clone an advanced animal. He took a an adult frog, and from a mature cell he took the DNA, and he put this DNA into an empty egg cell. And then from this egg cell a new frog developed. And this means, of course, then that every part of me, every single cell in my body contains the information to make another axon. Okay? So there's a blueprint of me in every cell, which is an amazing thought, I think. Even the mature cells. Many years later, Shinya Yamanaka came along and discovered, this was in 2006, that if you changed a few genes within the DNA of a mature cell, you can reprogram the cell and it will rewind itself to become a stem cell or a pluripotent cell again. So you can actually make stem cells out of mature cells. Just because a cell has specialized, it doesn't mean that it loses the information necessary to create any kind of cell. And this is very important, of course. Shinya Yamanaka is also quite unique because he is quite young. He's only 50 years old. And he made this discovery only 6 years ago, or 7 years ago. Normally you have to wait a long time, like John B. Gurdon, he waited 50 years for his award. And this is, I think, the main reason for this is that the Nobel Prize awarding institutions, I will talk more about that, they want to be sure that your discovery is important. They don't want to make any mistakes. So you might have to wait a long time. Shinya Yamanaka is young, but he's not the youngest one today. We had a really young laureate last year, Tawakkul Karman from Yemen. She was only 32 when she received the Peace Prize. But the youngest one to date was only 25. This was in 1915, and his name was William Lawrence Bragg. And he was also unique because he received the prize with his father. And he was 25, did I say that? Yes. The most important thing. He received the prize with his father. So he's up here somewhere. But 25 is really the record. And it's hard to break. The chemistry prize went to Brian Kobilka and Robert J. Lefkowitz. And they got the prize for studies of G protein coupled receptors, which is also very important for medicine. Now, the chemistry prize is often linked to medicine because a lot of people work with what is known as molecular biology or biochemistry. And this could have been a medicine prize as well. Their studies give an answer to a very fundamental question, and that is, how do the cells in the body communicate with the outside world? Because every cell is really, in a way, a living thing on its own. Life began with single-cell organisms, and then cells started maybe cooperating and creating advanced animals such as us. But they have this cell wall, and they have to communicate with the outside world, with other cells and so on. How does that happen? Well, they have discovered and really understood how this happens. They found these receptors. Maybe not the first one to see them, but the first ones to really to know exactly what they look like and how they work. Receptors, they sit on the outside of the cell. They go right through the cell wall, and inside they are coupled with the G protein. I think you will see a picture here, yes. This is the receptor, goes through the cell wall. And they interact with the environment. For example, you saw adrenaline here. That's a hormone. So if I were to scare you, like I took a knife and I would start to chase you, you would have a reaction within the body because your brain would start to pump out a lot of adrenaline into your body. And your entire body would react instantly. Your heart would start to pound, and maybe you could run forever, but you wouldn't feel tired because you were so scared. And this is very important. But these G protein coupled receptors, they also work with things like light. We have them in our eyes. And it's very important that we understand how they work, because around 50% of all medication works thanks to G protein coupled receptors. So if we know exactly how they work, we might create medication that is a lot more effective and with less side effects. So a great discovery also. Finally, we have the physics prize, which went to Sasha Hosh and David J. Wineland for groundbreaking experimental methods that enable measuring and manipulation of individual quantum systems. So anyone who knows exactly what I'm talking about? It's very hard to understand this. It's very strange. The world of quantum physics is very strange. We have a lot of people who have received the physics prize for their work in quantum physics. But this is really a classic, a Nobel Prize for quantum physics. Quantum physics is this body of theory that was developed in the 20th century to deal with really small things. Classical physics, Newton, it works really well with the apple falling from the tree and the sun and the moon and so on. But it doesn't work for really small things like the atom, a single atom or a single photon within a beam of light. And this was realized. You have to use another kind of physics to make it work, otherwise your predictions won't work. And this is called quantum mechanics, quantum physics. We have a lot of people there, Max Planck, Niels Bohr, Schrödinger, Nobel laureates. And they realized that within this realm, if you have one electron, for example, you have these really strange properties. For example, a single quantum system can be in several states at the same time, or in several places at the same time. This is called superposition. Or they can be entanglement. For example, two electrons then are connected to each other. If this one spins in one direction, the other one spins in the other direction. But if you separate them, I mean millions of kilometers, and then you start spinning one of them in the other direction, immediately the other one will start to spin in the other direction as well. So you have communication without communication, almost. Instantaneous connection between these electrons, which is amazing. And it goes against common sense. All of these theories work really well, and people realize we need quantum physics. The problem is, however, that you cannot see this happening, because as soon as you're looking at an individual quantum system, like if you're an atom and you have this property, if I look at you, I will disturb you. You will interact with me, with the outside world, and you will lose these properties right away. So I saw a TV show about this, and they compared it to teenage girls. You know, they're sitting in the mall having a discussion, okay? And you want to listen to them, but if you come too close to hear what they're saying, you will disturb them, because it's embarrassing. They don't want to talk. They don't want adults to hear what they're talking about. Okay. So how are you supposed to know what the teenage girls are talking about without disturbing them? How are you supposed to look at an individual quantum system? They used an indirect method. Sasha Hoshi traps photons in a trap. He traps light, really, in a trap with mirrors. And then he sends out in atoms. And these atoms tell him what's going on. And he can really see these properties, superposition, entanglement, and he can manipulate it also. David J. Wineland uses the opposite approach. He uses light to catch electrically charged atoms, ions, and he can manipulate them as well to be in several positions at the same time. And you can compare this to sending in a really old person to, you know, the group of teenage girls. They don't care about really old people. So you can send this old woman, senior citizen, to listen to them, and then she can come and tell you what's going on. What can you do with this? I think you will hear about this discovery in 50 years, definitely. Because it can lead to amazing technology, amazing technological advancement. We have the transistor, that's also a Nobel Prize, by the way. And in my iPhone then, which is a mini computer, I have transistors, hundreds of millions of transistors. And the transistor is either on or off, is 0 or 1. And with this I can create a binary code, zeros and ones. With that I can have computation within the iPhone. But imagine if I could create a transistor that is both 0 and 1 at the same time. Superposition. I can do so many calculations at the same time because it can be both 0 and 1 at the same time. And if I can manipulate this transistor and if I can measure it, then I almost have a working quantum computer. And that's what we might have thanks to these guys in the future. Things that would take a computer several thousand years today could be done in a matter of minutes with a quantum computer. So it will make my phone look like Stone Age equipment. So really fascinating stuff. And I always say this, don't ask me anything about the thing. I don't understand it. It's very difficult. Okay. But it's fascinating. Quantum mechanics. Any questions so far? Then I would like to tell you more about the selection process behind finding a Nobel laureate and the prize awarding institutions. Follow me.